Hi guys, welcome to our podcast. The series is called AGI Inception. We have Shish Shridhar from Microsoft here today.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon.
Good morning. Thank you very much for being our guest today. Shish and I have known each other for a long time, probably more than both of us know professionally, both care to admit.
Yep, it's been like 15 years or something like that.
15 years, yes. And what I like from the beginning about Shish is that he's a thought leader. He's literally a thought leader. He can go in from the technical, so he can go into the philosophy, and that open-mindedness about the fusion of science, technology, and philosophy. That's why he's in here, and we're thankful. We're double thankful, but that's an inside joke. Anyway.
Thank you for the opportunity, Alberto.
So, you tell our audience
tell us something about yourself. Yeah.
Sure. So, I've known you for 15 years, and at that time I was in Microsoft, and I'm still in Microsoft. Actually, it's been 23 years. So this year is 23 years in Microsoft. It's still an absolutely fun journey. So throughout the whole time, I've had a focus on AI and analytics and business intelligence and all of the evolutions that happened through that. At the time we worked together, I was actually focused on retail. So I was in the retail industry looking at AI capabilities within retail. And today I've done a slight change of focus, but still working on AI. My focus today is primarily around edge AI. So this is in the world of IoT. I'm part of the IoT engineering team, and I look at how do we now take AI to the edge and enable devices like cameras and things like that to have AI driven right off those devices and not do the round trip from the cloud. So all those kind of things really enable that AI right at the place where things are happening. Still a fun journey.
Go ahead, Rupesh.
Thank you so much
bring
for
us to that topic.
So coming back to our basic theme of the podcast, what would your word be for a self-assembling / auto-assembling artificial general intelligence for it to start?
It is, it's one of those things, it's really difficult to figure out what that first word will be. And I kind of debated on a whole series of words on, what are the things that you could use for an AGI system to begin that process. Everything from, questioning things and that questioning process enables it to learn more. And that was, to me, one aspect of it. But the word that I kind of decided I'll stick with is the word transform. And when I say transform, I'm kind of thinking, part of the process for any AGI system is about reinventing and about really changing the way things happen today. And my thought process when I was thinking about it was, we are always in this constant process of improvising what we do. We're always in this constant process of optimizing the things that we do. And we never really always want to repeat the same way that we do things. And that's sort of contrary to evolution, where progress for us has always been let's do things a different way. Let's look at improving it. Let's look at optimizing it. And if there is that constant, continuous improvisation, you have systems that are constantly finding new ways of doing things, rather than saying, we program the AGI system to do things this way based on past history, and it will do it that way. But rather, I would like to have that keyword for the AGI system to always challenge the current norm and say, I would love to transform. I would like to improve.
Wow.
I'd like to reinvent.
So what you're saying is that transforming is more than just making it faster or better or even more accurate. Transforming is a whole spectrum of how you think of that we're moving, and we need to transform into whatever technological world we're living in.
I could
Exactly.
could give that an example, like a very classic example which we have: invention of wheels. It was a transformation when we started flying. The next transformation would be having a wormhole and getting teleported from.
Exactly, and it's almost like, thinking beyond it and saying, I don't want to create a better wheel. I want to figure out what are the better ways of getting from point A to point B, and thinking about those problems in that way. Similar to when the car was invented, created, it wasn't about creating a better horse carriage. It was about saying, let's create something new with these capabilities and technologies. And I think it's along those lines where I'm kind of thinking, and you're right, Alberto, my thinking along that is really to say, transform is not necessarily incremental changes in saying, can I do this faster? Can I do this better? But also going beyond that to say, can I transform the end goal of what I want to do? And
Wow.
Like Rupesh, you kind of said, it's more of...
You know something?
Mm-hmm.
Think about, let's jump into a parallel topic.
Mm-hmm.
People think transform as the we're going to say Shish transform AI. That's how we're going to call it. And now somebody comes and says, somebody else and says,
Right.
well, what will transform? Could it be? They will be afraid first, because most people are not into this topic as we are. So
Right.
How would you address these people that say, I'm afraid of transforming, which you deal with for 23 years because you have been with Microsoft and you have seen all kinds of changes?
So, and I can see where you're coming from with that question, and to me, I kind of see any change to be fraught with risk, where that the way you did things in the past has worked, and despite that, with transform, you're kind of saying, despite the fact that the way we did things, the way we always did things worked, we're going to change it. And with that change, we're bringing in risk. When we do things the same way, we're now obviously bringing in that risk, but now we are constantly bringing in risk by saying, we're going to transform it. Even though it worked, we're going to try it a different way. I kind of think there is a process in transform. There's a process of test where transform is almost never, I would say, every transform that you do is a successful transform. And I think AGI systems are exactly. And I think if we look at the way people do things, people innovate and people try new things and people pioneer, I would say it's never that the first time you try something, you succeed. The first time you decided to invent something, you succeeded. The more data that goes into it and the more experience that an AGI system is able to input into that transform process, I think the level of success can go up with that data. When humans do transform, chances are there is multiple people out there trying new things with no experience to back them, with no history to back them, and they fail. But at the same time, an AGI system that has the right inputs could potentially have a higher rate of success, but at the same time learn from, it'll be that continuous improvement to say, I can try this out, and there'll be multiple tests till the system is able to find the right.
So do you think that an AGI, an artificial general intelligence, that have as its main word or filter or node, whatever you want to call it, transform, that it will be the same in the United States as it will be in North Korea?
That's an interesting one, because I'm kind of thinking the ecosystem in which an AGI system subsists, lives, would define the norm and the ethics and the parameters of behavior. Similar to, I think, for people, what would be normal for survival in one place would be completely different in another. And as an example, if I was living in the city, my norms and how I survive will be completely different if I was dropped off in an island and made to survive in a completely different environment. I would adapt, and I think that the ability to adapt is, again, another aspect that is extremely important. And the adapt capability, I think, defines how you respond, and also how you actually define what your norms and ethics and all of those are.
And how will you do that? Do you think that people are, let's imagine there are going to be multiple AIs. That we had the Shish transform AI, the Alberto adapt AI, the Rupesh listen AI. But I think, and this is something I started writing years ago, that there should be an agreed upon set of governance, and we know the difference between a principle and governance. A very specific, as a way of inputting what is that ethical behavior.
And you kind of used the keyword there, agreed upon, and I think that is kind of an important aspect, is what I think, where when an AGI system is living in a vacuum in itself, or with an ecosystem that is not connected to other ecosystem, the inputs that it gets to define its behavior is fed from the ecosystem that it lives in, and is
okay. Well, imagine that is the whole universe of the internet, the dark web, whatever you want to call it, and stuff like that. So how do you control, if any possible, and I know you have children like I do, and I think back, how do you guide, because that's what you provide, is guidance for ethical agree upon, when the whole universe of the internet could be at stake in here.
Well, one of the things, that's a tough one, because you have, no agreement sometimes on what is what is ethical and what's not ethical. I don't believe there is a general agreed upon status in that, but I kind of think there is, and I'm kind of thinking again along the same parallel of how humans respond to that. And to me, that would be the sphere of influence around a person kind of defines the experience and the sphere of influence. And from an AGI system perspective,
That's a very specific. We have found that
Right.
people divide the one word command, and then when we go through this analysis that we're
Right.
going right now, it comes down to an economic or spiritual thing.
Right,
Look at
yeah.
how interesting.
Exactly.
Economic, we can agree. You know, I think because those are numbers. That's most
Right, yep.
usually the math would be. But
Yep.
spiritual, what do you agree is spiritual in the ethics department, in the transform department? Wow, this is a fascinating conversation, but we're gonna need to wrap it up.
Yep.
And with that positive, Shish, thank you. And we need to do this again. As a matter of fact, we should do this often anyway. That's what I do.
Thank
people
you.
say, this is your job. Yeah, that's my job. I talk about this business, and I've been
That's
doing
a fun
it for
job.
Yeah. So anyway,
Thank you.
Rupesh, could you give us a roundup of the podcast?
Thinking about the word transform, the AGI which would actually be born using the word transform as a trigger would also think about all the fundamentals which come into play, and also would innovate to a very different level than what it would innovate, thinking about the efficiency in mind about each and everything. For any other word, if we'd say, like, the AI will start thinking out of the box for the betterment of the society when it will start sustaining in our ecosystem. And that is what I love about the word transform.
Yep.
Hey, Shish, if by any chance you get to talk to or Brad Anderson or Sanjay, tell them that Alberto would love to have them in here, and he promised that he will behave.
Absolutely. This has been absolutely a fun conversation, a very deep conversation, and it's great to also learn your perspectives on it through that conversation. That's certainly both Rupesh and Alberto. It was absolutely fun to chat.
Thank you so much, Ish.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.